Thirstaholics. Welcome to the Thirsty Professional, where today we're welcoming Skye Van Heyzen, stress and confidence coach for women leaders. Ooh, go grab a bevy. We'll be back in a minute.
Welcome to the space where truth is poured. No corporate scripts, just tales explored. From passion quest to purpose found, the thirsty professional breaks new ground. So fill your cup, let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Thirsty Professional. This is a place where we grab a bevy, we ditch the BS, and we get real about careers, purpose, and passion. I'm your host, Beth Ann Campbell, former corporate queen, now full-time author and podcaster, bringing out Miss Fanny Bangkok. Some of you probably haven't seen my third hat here, Miss Fanny Bangkok today. If you're watching live, let us know you're here in the comments. Where are you from? And most importantly, what are you drinking? If you're watching the replay, give us a hashtag replay. And of course, let us know if you have any questions or feedback so we can address it during the live stream or after. All right, today, my very special guest, let me bring him on while I do his intro so you can see his awesome orangeness and his lovely face here. I love orange. It's one of my favorite colors. Skye Van Heyzen. Skye is the founder of Adaptive Apex. He coaches modern professionals, mostly women in leadership, who are tired of feeling like they are trying to that they have to hold it all together. Skye spent 14 plus years in high pressure environments, moving from academia into commercial leadership and innovation roles. He knows what it looks like when your life is full, work is intense, and you're still the one who picks up the slack. Oh yes, haven't we been there? He helps clients stop overcarrying, make cleaner decisions, speak with more confidence, and navigate office dynamics without losing themselves. I so needed you like about 5 years ago. His approach is practical, no BS, and down to earth, and you know I love that. Welcome, Skye Van Heyzen, to the Thirsty Professional. So good to have you here.
Amazing to be here. Thank you, Beth. On Friday 13th, nonetheless.
I know. Are you a superstitious person? Is that something that...
My wife and I got married in 2013 on the 13th of April. So, no.
I guess not. Yeah.
Not me.
me either. So we're going to talk about so many things today: leadership, overwhelm, burnout, so many things. But you told me a story, and I really wanted you to tell everybody, because I like to talk with people about how badly their names have been bastardized over the years. And you told me a little story about, because you kind of can tell with people sometimes their names, and you go, yeah, that person probably gets a lot of their name, misspoken. So tell me, what is the worst version of Skye Van Heyzen that you have had, or the most extreme?
The most extreme. So, probably the funniest one I ever had was when I worked in agriculture, and I'd been working with this girl she was in the commercial department, marketing department of all places, and she got my name wrong. Good for marketing. What can you say?
Well, you had one job.
Yeah. So, and basically she got my name spelled Syke. So I became Psych.
Psych.
Yeah. And basically became a really good sort of joke throughout the farming community here in the UK that I was Psych. So that was a great one, but I've been called some awful things. People love just they'll either drop the Van and become Skye Heyzen, or they'll drop the Heyzen and I'm Skye Van. And I'm like, it's really not hard, people. It's really not hard.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can imagine, because, well, my maiden name is Wesolowski, so it's very Polish, although it's not one of those crazy Eastern European spellings. It's pretty straightforward, but people see the SKI and they go, I don't even know how to do this. So, yeah, exactly. And I do get people asking me a lot, is it Beth or Beth Ann? And the truth is that most of my life I've been just Beth, as if there's ever just a Beth, but I've been Beth. But my husband, our whole marriage, has called me Beth Ann, right? It's just kind of like a term of endearment. And then when I published my first book, so it's a corporate snarky book, and I came down kind of hard on corporate leadership, but I wanted something that was a little politer of a name to kind of temper swearing and like you shitty kind of thing. So I went with Beth Ann, and a few people. I had a boss that still does call me Beth Ann. So, and then that just kind of stuck. So now that's my author name and kind of my brand name. So I answer to either. So,
Fair enough.
but I would say most people call me Beth, just Beth.
Just Beth. We'll call you Just Beth.
Just call me Just Beth. Badass Beth. Bacon Beth, as I get sometimes too. We were talking about pets earlier, and I told you I was going to ask you when we're live about.
Yeah.
You said that you've had your favorite pets that you've had. You've had a lot.
Yeah.
But tell us what your favorite pet type is.
So yeah, as I said to you, like dogs, cats, birds, we've had them all really. But what I would always call my favorite pet, like the best pet I've ever had, was a rat. Of all things. And a lot of people go, what? Run and hide.
Yeah, why? Tell me.
Unbelievably intelligent. Just
really
beyond intelligence. It's just incredible creatures to be around. They're super clean as well. Everybody thinks rats are dirty. They're actually one of the cleanest creatures around.
You know what, Skye, I lost a little bit of I can hear you, but your audio went a little wonky. I don't know if something...
Sorry.
Is that good?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so they're very intelligent. Okay, I mean,
yeah.
Really?
yeah. Honestly, like you can put things in front of them and they'll have to try and figure it out to get to the food, or if you put certain things in place and they have to know, well, I've got to climb up there and I've got to go in this way. And unbelievably switched on creatures and super clean as well. Unbelievably clean. So
wow.
Yeah, I've always, he used to sort of sit on my shoulder and I'd walk around the house, and then he'd just be like, walking around like a cat basically.
Did you ever lose him?
Sorry?
Did you ever lose him? Like,
no.
He just kind of
no. And if you called him, he'd come. Yeah, his name was Templeton.
Nice. Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. So, folks, anybody who's looking to get a pet, maybe a rat might be for you. I don't know if it would be for me. I think I'm still. I get it. On paper, I get it because you're not the first person I've heard say that. In fact, I've known people that they're in love with their tarantulas and just all kinds of crazy things. But I think yeah, exactly. But I think for me, it's like because so many times, maybe not so much rats, but with mice, which are just really small rats, kind of, at least in physicality, that, the element of surprise is there. So that's, you kind of build up that sort of, maybe not. Anyway, let's kick off. I wanted you to tell everybody out there a little bit about what do you do and where's the passion in what you do right now?
Yeah, so, well, I've been on a bit of a journey, if I'm honest. And so obviously now, as you introduced me, I work primarily with women. And that really is, really where I'm focused on working with. So women in senior leadership roles, individuals who they're just they're seen as that reliable person. They're handling it all, but then underneath the surface, it's like stretched, overwhelmed, stuck. And really it's because everybody looks at them and say, well, they're the trusted one. They're the one that if I asked, it would just get done, and then this is typically what happens is they then go home and they're still carrying all of that with them, and it gets to that point where it's like, I start asking questions around, why is it that way in many ways, and if you look at it, women in society, particularly those in corporate leadership, senior leadership roles, there's almost this expectation to be likable as well as productive.
Oh.
Whereas for men, it's like you could be the biggest D1CK on the world and it doesn't really matter. It's just part of business, and I kind of go, well, that's lopsided, but my whole life I've grown around sort of really powerful women. My mom was a great role model, and I've been sort of nurtured through some schooling, through some incredible women. But then as I got into corporate, it was the women that were around me, my line managers, and that were women, and I started seeing how incredibly powerful they were. But they trained me in a way of thinking instead of just going, oh, he's just one of those. Because when I walked into corporate, I'm going to be the first person to stand up and say, I thought I knew it all. You couldn't tell me anything. I was fresh off the boat, but there's nothing you couldn't tell me. And I think that was it. That first line manager in particular, she will always stand out for me as a key influential role. And because we butted heads many times, to be fair. And, you've got to imagine a South African who's only been in South Africa, went to the Netherlands for a short bit, and then gets a first sort of big role in the UK.
Yeah.
There's going to be a little bit of this, particularly with a hot-headed individual that I was. I've fortunately calmed that down a little bit now. It's a little bit more tempered.
Were you pretty young at the time?
Yeah, no, I was, what was I, mid-20s? Yeah.
We call that, when I was in corporate, we called that the cocky new grad.
Yeah, basically. And, she could have just gone whatever and move on. But instead she said, no, hang on, I can work with this. And, and in fact, we actually made each other better because of it. And then when I got really high up and I was sort of, around that C-suite level, started noticing there was this 1%. And I was like, these women walk into the room, everybody would be like, what are they going to say? Okay. But then there were other women in the room who I knew had great ideas, were really good people. But when it came to questioning, they'd sit there and go, nothing. And all of a sudden, their line manager, who's a guy, says what they're thinking. And they get, oh, well, heralded praise. They get all of it. And I'm going, like, it was her idea. It wasn't his idea. I know it was her idea.
Yeah. She probably said it. She probably whispered it early, and then later on, and nobody pays any attention. I mean, that happened to me a million times.
Yeah. And it's just, I asked the question, like, why do you walk into the room and you suddenly feel like you have this burden on you, this heavy weight on you, right? And now I used to be like that as well, until eventually I started shedding some of that. Yeah. And that's what got me to the level that I was able to achieve. But even in all of that, I burnt out twice. I left corporate, went to work for a small business. I burnt out there again, and so having gone through all of that and feeling the stress and the strain and knowing what's coming, the second burnout, I say to my clients and I say to everybody quite openly, I nearly lost everything that mattered the most to me in my world, and the third time that I burnt out, it came with shingles. Eventually the invoice comes in, like the body is going to start paying. If you keep on ignoring those signs, the words, the symptoms, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just a person that goes, enough is enough, because I stood there one day and I just said, for a paycheck, I'm going to put myself in the ground for a paycheck. And it just didn't sit with me. So I was like, no, I'm calling BS on this and it's time to change. So yeah, I went alone, because a consultant in agri, and I was doing all sorts of things like that. Then found myself coaching and sort of really enjoyed the coaching, got my qualifications, got all this stuff. That was an interesting journey, some dark times, did some transformational work as a coach. So I had transformational coaches working with me. And that just opened my eyes to what was possible in terms of what you were able to shed. And when I look back, I go, oh, if I'd had that person.
Yeah. That's what I say when I hear you talk, because you talk about that what I called myself the chief executive of getting shit done. I was not an executive, or the director of getting shit done, right?
Yeah.
And that was me. And when I hear you say that stuff, I think what would have been so much better. And I was an aware person, believe me. I knew the stress, I knew the overwhelm. You talk about the differences, the language that we use. Men can be assertive and women are aggressive if they do the same thing. When women talk a lot, it's negative. When men talk a lot, they looked at as leaders. So we have to deal with all that. But man, I just still, after I got out, it wasn't, it was 2 years later. It's like really like in the last year of recognizing, wow. I really could have used somebody like you.
And it is. And particularly the people who come to me are particularly high performers, what I call high functioning high performers. Yeah. So as you said, it's the CEO of getting shit done. Yeah. Right. This is that person. This is the person who, it's not a badge of honor to work 65 hours a week.
No.
But at the same time, you go, this is what it takes, because that's what you tell yourself. You tell yourself the story you've been fed. You tell the story that maybe was set by your parents, by your grandparents, by your culture. Maybe it was set by your environment. Maybe it's just you set it on yourself for some reason, right? And it's getting to that and going, do you know what? You can you can still get it done and have your time and have your life. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to bury you. And that's what I help them sort of acknowledge and understand and also work through. And look, for me, like, I've always, I always get the questions like, yeah, but it must be like really like fun, rewarding. Like, what is the thing for you when you see somebody, and it's like, it's literally seeing that transformation in front of you. It's seeing them walk through the door and they're walking on a cloud instead of having a ton of bricks on their shoulders. Like,
Yeah.
that for me is like, I've worked myself out of a job and I'm so happy in that moment. Like, that's like, my job is to work myself out of a job.
Yeah.
And to be able to give somebody that level of transformation where they just go, hey, the shitstorm can come, but you know what? It's just another day at the ranch and I'm good and I got this.
It would have been so nice.
And it's like, yeah, cool, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's game on.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of us get to that point, but only after we've, the shitstorm has just happened for so long. But that's kind of like a quiet quitting thing too, is where you just go,
Yeah,
I don't give a fuck anymore.
We like the labels. We like holding on to labels because that's who we are as a species. Like, that's how we've come through the industrial age. We've come through all of that, through all the world wars and all of that. And we have this mentality now. And it's a case of saying, I get it. And it's not to say it's okay to not be okay, right? Like, that's the statement. It's okay to not be okay. And so you're not being weak by saying, yes, I'm overwhelmed. Yes, I'm stretched. Yes, I'm stressed. I mean, the thing I always like to point out to people is that stress is important. You should have stress in your life. If you don't have stress in your life, you can't perform, right? Yeah. That's just it. But there's a difference between acute stress, which is a high-performing stress in a moment, and giving yourself an ability to lower the cortisol levels back, to bring yourself back down so that you can then enter the game again, versus chronic stress, which is just layer on layer on layer. And then it's like, you can't come back from that until your body puts you in the bed for 7
100%.
days. And then what?
Here's the thing, Skye, having been there myself and having worked with a lot of women where I hear it all. I heard it all the time. I still hear it. Actually, I get DM'd sometimes by some of these same people, mostly women who are just so overwhelmed. And I say to them, why then, just say no. Can you just say no? Or say, I can take that on, but, put a boundary up, but what am I giving up? Somebody has to, and they can't or won't or don't. And then that stress, as you said, they probably, as I don't even realize how bad it is, because I didn't realize it until I was out, until I got laid off, struggled, panicked for a few months, and then made it a conscious decision to not go back to corporate. And it was literally that moment that I felt like I just dropped like a ton of bricks from my shoulders. I had no idea how bad it really was. And I don't think a lot of women do.
No, and they don't. And it's not to say you're at fault, for example. It's not
no. Well, sometimes, right? But sometimes there is a responsibility though, because you talked earlier about, how we get here. And for me, and I know for a lot of women, I liked it at first. I liked it for the first 10 years and I created a monster. So we do have to, at least acknowledge that sometimes we create that expectation.
Absolutely.
But it's okay to, to back off.
I think, you nubbed it there earlier when you said, if somebody DMs you and you say, oh, can't you just put a boundary up? And then they say they can't or they won't or there's an excuse. I'm going, okay, if I've given you a legitimate opportunity to put a boundary up and you're saying no, you're at the tipping point.
Yeah.
Let me just rip the Band-Aid off now. You're at the tipping point. Like, you're there already. It's now your opportunity to do something about it. Because setting boundaries is actually, again, it's like, why do you not set boundaries? Why do people push themselves through this turmoil and this pain? And it's like, you're almost a sucker for punishment. You enjoy the pain. And it's like, well, yes, because there's an internal story that I like to believe that's giving me an excuse to carry on living this way and basically blaming somebody else for it, because, well, it's not me, it's corporate's done it to me. Nobody does anything to you. You allow it to happen to you. I'm sorry, but that is true.
So true.
So
say that again, because it's true. Nobody wants to believe that, because yes, we acknowledge there's shit coming at you,
Yeah.
but you have the power to regulate how you respond. You have the power to say no.
Yeah. And
I think, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, it's like, because the one thing is we can only control one thing in our lives. And if I was to ask you, let me ask you. So if I say to you, you can only control one thing in your life, what is it?
Me.
Okay, but what is it about you that you can control? Because there's only one thing you can control, and it controls everything you do, everything you say, everything you are.
Ooh, I mean, I would say that the only thing that I control is how I respond to the
Exactly.
external world.
Exactly. Perspective. You
Okay,
can
great.
only control
Awesome.
your
Yay. I got it right.
that's the only thing you can control.
Yeah.
So if that's the only thing we can control, well, then how we arrive in ourselves is going to determine the outcome of the scenario. Now, I'm not suggesting that people don't have, hierarchical weight that just gets thrown at them and, go and ignore it. I certainly, I never say to everybody, oh, just ignore it or laugh it off or, go take a 5-minute breather or a break or like, that's just surface level advice that some coaches give. And I want to kick them in the proverbials, but the point is, and they give us a bad name too. They give us a very bad name. That's
Yeah.
not fair. But the thing is that is a case of you can still show up for yourself, even if you're getting that pressure, and you can still then give yourself a break later on. Like this,
Yeah.
there is a world where this does work and does operate. You can
Yeah.
be a high functioning CEO and have a life. Like that's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just like to hide behind that barrier and that sort of shield and armor and go, yeah, but it's not my fault. It's like, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying you're not giving yourself a break.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, I think especially nowadays, and maybe you run into this too, is and I saw this with my team members. So I was a manager as well as many other roles, but I would see it in my team. I had like mostly brilliant people on my team in all the companies that I worked for, just super smart. Like they were running the show. If they left, it was like holy shit. But they didn't see their worth, and there was this fear in women and men of, well, if I don't take this on, if I don't do this, I'm going to get laid off. Because now with companies, especially, I don't know maybe how it is in the UK, in the US, there's a lot of layoffs. We're losing jobs. There's a lot of turmoil, government and such. So people are even more afraid. But even before, there's such a fear, especially as we get older.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think there is still this concept of like, when you enter at like a certain level, well, any level in a corporate, you're a number, anyways. But the point is that, if you're entering at a lower level, then yes, you could be replaced by the next person who walks through the door. Because in principle, you're pushing numbers, you're doing things, you're on a phone, just with a script. It's that sort of process. And I think though when you get to leadership roles and things like that, I think although yes, there is this concept around you could get replaced, you could, but if you're leading from a space of sort of alignment with yourself and with the company and you're leading your life from your values, and actually that links to the company quite well and how you live and you work, then ultimately they're never going to get rid of you, because you are going to be able to make that team and that part, that business unit, whatever it is, excel. And I mean, like really excel, which is where like, I don't encourage people to leave their jobs at all. My whole thing is like, I actually want you to become the CEO. Like I like working with people that are just less than the CEO. And I'm like, right, I want you to go take his job. Would you go take his job for me? Like, no, I'm not trying to begrudge anybody, but it's just like to be able to get somebody to step up and level up and realize that you don't have to be the expert in everything, but you do have to be the expert in you as an individual.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with the right group of individuals and influence, and then you're going to crush it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely going to crush it. And I think that's the point for me.
I mean, so many things. I did want to ask you about a little bit back to your journey. So you went through this multiple burnouts, and you talked about you had shingles, and I mean physical manifestation, though people don't realize. I am almost 3 years out of corporate, and I am still dealing with the physical impacts of that chronic stress.
Yeah.
Talk to me. How was that transition for you when you finally? It sounds like it was sort of maybe it was it a gradual thing, but when you finally said, okay, I'm not going back to a traditional job, I'm gonna. I mean, tell me what that transition was like. Did you have to unlearn any of your
I mean,
traditional
I'm still
professional?
unlearning. Every day's a learning day, Beth. Every day. No, so I think for me, when I decided to go alone, at that point, I had an incredible support system around me. So that's the first thing. I talk about nearly losing everything that mattered the most to me, and I don't say that lightly. And they are my support mechanism. They are my everything. And the point is that was the second one, right? So the first one happened. The burnout happened. I won't go into the detail. Basically, there was a little bit of like blindsiding and whatever else. A little bit, I got your back, and then was in a big meeting and they didn't have my back. And then I just sort of like at that moment stepped out of that into a different company. And that gave me a moment to learn and reflect. Then when I went through the second one, and we're talking about, this was during COVID. I was still, agriculture, you couldn't stop working. We were still expected to go to farms, sell stuff and whatever else. We just bought our first house. My daughter was 2 years old. I was doing an MBA and an apprenticeship MBA as well at the same time. And so it was all there, right? I was in the pressure cooker, and it was just a matter of a case of like, is it going to pop by itself, or am I going to press the valve? And of course, I didn't press the valve, but and that then happened. And I think when I then transitioned out of that, it gave me a second chance to learn. And then when I burned out, it gave me another chance to learn. So I think, again, it's that journey and kind of going through that. I was like, well, I don't have to unlearn a lot of things, because I was like, well, I'm not going to be treated like that again, or I'm not going to react like that again. So as I'm going through it, I'm consciously making a decision to say, this is a learning experience. I must take something from this. This is on my plate, and I'm feeling this way for a reason. So I better learn. Otherwise, all that's going to happen is I'm going to repeat the same pattern, and I'm going to get the same result. And then I'm basically hitting my head against a brick wall, which is daft. So let's not do that. And then so when I transitioned to being a consultant, I was like, okay, well, I got to change it. But I got caught up in the whole stress and the hours and all the rest of it. And again, I had a dark patch, and luckily surrounded by some coaches, surrounded by some incredible people, and did some transformational work. And sort of, I've come out the back of that going, okay, so life doesn't have to be like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you go back, it's like, well, where did that come from? Well, I now know inherently it was my belief system. And I've worked on that, and I've altered those limiting beliefs. I've altered a lot of my internal dialogue, because I knew that was what I needed, and there was a lot of internal conflict that stemmed from my childhood, and I've worked on that, and we sort of like, you go through that process, and it's like, this is why for me, I'm a transformational coach. I'm not a coach. I use coaching techniques, yes, but I also use neuro-linguistic programming, because for me, it's incredibly important to be able to break somebody out of a cycle quickly if I have to. I always coach first, tools second. And some people don't like it when I say that, because they're like, no, but I just give me the fix. Just give me the fix. And I'm like, no, we're going to work on the foundation first. Then I'll give you the fix. I'm not a drug dealer. Come on. And it's just that process of having broken down so many times, and then go, nobody has to live like that. Mm-mm. Nobody has to live like that. And I refuse to believe people have to live like that. And I refuse to believe that things like burnout should be in the dictionary. So I'm almost here to eradicate it in many ways. And in doing that, yes, it requires a lot of work. My clients, I always say to them, hey, listen, you come to me, you need to show up now.
Yeah.
Right? You said you want this, it's time to show up. Because I think, again, like when I go through the transformation stuff, there's a great saying, Carl Jung said it. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate.
Truth. So true.
And you're like going, yeah, because it's your internal belief system that's controlling you. And by the way, that belief system was never yours in the first place.
No, it just people. I think people, and this was a realization for me doing a lot of mindset work. Is there's so much shit that goes on in our youth and our childhood that we have no control over, and that's the sad part, is that we can't go back and go, oh, okay, let me just reverse it. It happened, things about everything, money, relationships,
All of it.
self-worth. I mean, for me it was self-worth, and even a little, probably a little money, just the way of how you got treated, what went on around you. And now here you are decades later, and you're like, why am I like this? Well, it probably started when you were 3,
Yep.
and it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
But that shit, that's the hardest shit. The stuff that, me being in corporate as an adult and having learned, some things that I had to unlearn, that's hard. What's really hard is unlearning the stuff that you learn, and that becomes your subconscious way of, when from a childhood. That stuff's really hard. You almost have to have somebody to coach you through that, really.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have my coaches around me, like
Yeah.
hands down. Like, and I've invested in many coaches, and I still have I actually have a mentor and a couple of coaches I still work with. A mentor was gifted to me, thankfully. Say thankfully because it would be very expensive otherwise. But an incredible man, and but again, I deliberately surround myself with diversity as well, though. So like when I'm working with coaches, like I want a person who talks like me, so a straight shooter, no BS. Come on,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Amen.
And then I need somebody else who's going to be the thought provoker, the one who's going, "Are you sure?"
Yes.
And it's like, I thought I was sure, but you're asking me that question that way, and I don't think I am anymore.
I love it. You've got like the angel and the devil on the shoulder, like,
Exactly.
no, do that. You got it. No, are you sure?
Yeah. I mean, he's got a good idea, but damn it. Yes, okay, fine. But I think, again, because for me, diversity breeds brilliance. So, I like to have that around me. I think it's really important. But again, these are people who, like, they've got to be in your corner. They are there to work. You've got to show up and do the work too. And again, having done it, I'm like, I mean, it's just a game changer. I mean, it's just like I'm a very different human. I used to really shout at anybody who would cut me off. It didn't matter if they were rushing their, grandmother to the hospital. I'd still like be absolutely furious that they decided to cut me up. And I kind of go, well, I don't know what's going on in that car. Why am I getting angry?
Yeah.
I don't know what their situation is. Like, why does that even matter to me? Is it really affecting me? Did they hit the car? No. Okay. So what's the problem?
It's so enlightening. It's so liberating when you get to that point of self-awareness where, because I was the same way. I was a hothead, and I was the one that people would text. Usually women would like, are you going to say something? Because I would be the one that would say something. It was like we're getting yelled at by this way. Are you going to say something? Or thank you for saying something. But it's just, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's a hard thing. And I did want to ask you, though, I completely lost my thought what I was going to say, but I did want to ask, probably because I was thinking about this. When you are working, so you've worked with people, mostly women, in these upper leadership positions, and you yourself have experience with that corporate. What are some things that maybe either you experienced that you just didn't recognize, or that women or people who are in this, I'm approaching burnout kind of thing? What are some things that they should look out for, or that they don't look out for that they should?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, I'm just going to take it on. I'm just handling it. I'm just going to handle it. It's just quicker if I handle it. Let me just handle it. It's like, really? No.
You're already working 65 hours a week. Do you really?
Yeah, no, you don't need another thing on your plate. I promise you, it's full already.
Take note, women. If you're already working 65, 70 hours a week, and someone says, can you, here's something I want you to do, it's okay to say, what do you
I mean,
take?
and that was the thing. Like, I got to a point, and it was brilliant, actually. The first time I ever did it. And I still remember how scared I was. Like, I actually remember, I could still feel it in my chest. Because it was sort of like slightly hyperventilating, my heart rate like almost tripled. and I said to my, to the C-suite, and I was like, okay, I can do that. If I do that, something else has got to go. So what am I dropping? Am I going to drop this, or this? And who does that go to? And I remember like just saying it, and I'd spoken to my mentor at this point and just said, just say it and just keep quiet. And I was like, okay. So I said it, and I sort of stood there breathing, trying to breathe silently, but I'm sure I was breathing like a bulldog in the middle of summer. But it's like in that moment, my line manager looked at me and said, all right, yes. Well, I kind of need you to do it all. And I said, okay, but
I had the same exact thing happen with my boss, and he was a great guy, but it said, what am I going to give up? And he said, well, we got to find a way to do it all.
Yeah. And I just said to him, I said, well, okay, fine. I can do it all. But you either have to give me other people to help me, or you have to expect a delay. What do you want? And he just said, well, let's see how you get on, was the reply. I was like, great. So, I made a conscious decision. I'm not sacrificing my quality for his speed. I'm not doing it. I have standards to live by. And I wasn't prepared to, and then that was the thing. It's the non-negotiables. You can't walk away from your non-negotiables. So it's that moment, and I just went, okay, that was it. And I think I got the one thing got delayed by like a week and a half, and I got hauled over the coals by somebody else. And I said, no, you got a problem with this. You go talk to him. And they sorted it out, whatever. I said, okay, well, we can't let this happen again. I said, well, as I said to you, something had to drop, or I needed people. There is no other way of doing this. And it was just like, So yeah, that's definitely that I'll handle it is one of the key ones. The other things are really, it's like, it's the short fuse. And people, when I say short fuse, I'm not talking about, I mean, some people do it, going full Hulk on, everybody. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about you come home and the dog or the cat runs in front of you and you shout at it.
Yeah.
It's the partner saying to you, have you seen my keys? And you're like, you keep on leaving things around. If you were just more organized, and it's like, you wouldn't naturally respond that way. So why are you responding that way? And it's little things like that trigger. And you're going to go, if you were to just take a moment and a snapshot and say, is this me normally? Is this how I would usually react? And if the answer is no, you're there. Yeah. You're on that line. It's now or never, really, because at some point the body's just going to go, there you go, have some illness of some sort.
You're so insightful. You're so smart. You have, like, even when you were talking before about, things, we need more men in the world like you, first of all. But you just were talking about a lot of things that about women that were just so fucking dead on. So tell me what it's like for you. You're kind of like a little bit of a unicorn, because I normally will talk to and see and connect, and I'm connected with men who coach men, women who coach women. I get it. You're a man who primarily coaches women. So tell me about that dynamic a little bit.
So, and it's the thing I actually love talking about, because it's the elephant in the room. It's like, whoa, a man coaching women. That's a bit, I'm like, well, what? Like women, like I have women coaching me, because I need that perspective, because they bring something that I don't have and I'm never going to have. So for me, it's very much a case of like, when I'm having first interviews with people who, they come across what I'm, some of my content maybe, or they've heard, they've been referred or whatever else. And they'll be like, so talk to me a little bit. And I say, well, look, I just want to be upfront with you. I'm a guy. So I am never, ever going to walk a day in your shoes, nor will I pretend to. I don't know what it's like. I don't have your biology. I don't know what it's like. What I do have is a perspective. What I do have is years of pain. What I do have is years of success. And what I do have is gone through a transformational process where I was really in the darkest of deep holes, and I'm now where I am today. And I know what it takes to pull yourself out of that to get to the top. Like, I know what it is. And so I'm going to bring something to you that a woman is not going to say to you, because I'm not a woman.
I,
you know,
I
and
love I love it.
that sort of, that it's the clash. And I think, because again, I think most of the reason why I done this, and I want to coach women, why I specifically want to coach women, I'm so passionate about it, is because of my first experience here in the UK with that first line manager. I grew the most in my career with her as my line manager. And it was because it was a woman. Because I was around men who were at her position and I was interacting with them, but they'd say things differently to me. And it was that relationship that's built who I am today and why I really want to do what I do. So yeah, it's just, as I say, for me, it's the elephant in the room. I love it. I'm just like, yep, I'm a dude. And by the way, by the way, that's your power, because I'm the guy in your corner. I'm your cheerleader, absolutely, pom poms and all, but I'm also your best friend. I'm the one going, are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're the "Are you sure" guy. Yeah. So I love this so much because, as I am an ardent feminist and I have, but I have always oddly, and maybe it was because, and again, everyone's different. I'm not saying this is all your clients, but my biological father died very early. I was like 2.5. It was a car accident. And so I grew up, and then my mother remarried, but it was years later, and he was a great guy, but I have always had this weird, I've had mostly male bosses, so that's probably another dynamic that plays into it, is that your women are probably working with a lot of men, and had mostly bosses, and with the exception of the last one, they were all amazing, but I have always oddly responded really well to father figure types, and by that I mean like the gentle but firm. I'm going to tell you, that there's a masculine energy that comes out, but it is that perfect masculine energy, which is I'm going to tell you directly, because men tend to be more direct, right? And I'm going to, the little guy on the shoulders. Are you sure? Yeah, I don't know that you should do that. Where, you know,
Try.
and it's a weird, it's just a weird thing, because I relate to that. I relate to this idea of, and again, I've had many women coaches, and they've all been mostly amazing. But I love this idea that you are taking on women clients, and because it is different, but it is, in so many ways, it makes sense to me.
And I think, again, the really high functioning, high performing women, they tend to be in male dominated sectors.
Yeah.
So that tends to be that you are working either very closely with men or you're reporting to men. So this whole second guessing, oh, how am I going to be perceived? What do they think of me? What label are they going to give me? And all this sort of like this rubbish, this internal rubbish that is spoken. In that moment, I'm going like, okay, look, you need a guy to tell you straight up, like, this is what it is, right? And let's work on that. So like, I certainly, I like to believe, at least, that I bring an element of masculinity and femininity to my coaching practices, because it does require both. And, because that's the other thing, is that, I've been around, people like me who've tried to coach women, as I'm going to phrase it. And I've sort of stood there and gone, not your audience, man, not your audience. I think you want to rethink this one. And to be honest, like, really, what I would say, the calling to working with women actually only really came to its fore with me last year, November, when I went on a 3-day intensive with some Tony Robbins coaches. So guys who facilitate for Tony Robbins. And one of them in particular, he just blew my mind, and he challenged me on, but it was like a kindred spirit. It's the only way I can describe him. Like, I just sort of, he walked in the room and I was like, you're my person. I don't know, like, it's just, there's this energy, and you're just like, yeah, this is my person. I don't know why this is my person, but this is my person.
Yeah.
And it went through this process, and he said to me, I'm going to go through a few things over the next few days. I'm going to ask you some questions. Well, don't worry, like, we're going to get to it. And I was like, no, I want my answer now. He's like, no, don't worry about it. We'll get to it. It's fine. Yeah. And at the end of day 3, he came up to me. He's like, so how do you think, and what are we saying, and how do we feel? And I said, and I went through a series of things, and he went, there you are. There you are. That's it. That's you. Look at you. Listen to how you're talking. And then one of the female coaches, she came over because he called her over and said, just have a quick chat. And she was like, she's, yeah, wow, like, yes. And I was like, okay, cool. So we're onto something here. But again, it's only through that kind of work, that deep work, that you really can come to that space. I'm very grateful, though, those experiences, very grateful for those people who supported me through it, and stood by me. But that's what's brought me to where I am. And I can't imagine a better thing than coaching women. I really can't.
Awesome. I love smart people and self-aware people, and you're both of those.
Like,
Skye Van Heyzen, can I put you in the Thirsty Professional confessional and ask you
yeah, why
some
not?
awesome? I didn't even ask you.
What my rosemary bead.
I didn't even ask you what you were drinking. But I'm going to ask you now. What is the best beverage?
I'm a lime and soda guy.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm probably keeping the lime importation buoyant. Is probably the best way I give praise. I love lime. I just love it.
I love lime too. But if you were to say, like, gun to my head, figuratively speaking, it would be milk. Cow's
Really?
milk.
Okay, yeah. No, lime and soda for me. But yeah, I'm either drinking lime and soda or I'm drinking black coffee.
Love it. Your office, cluttered or clean?
Cluttered.
Is it? Because you have a beautiful, lovely. Mine is way too. I love your background because first of all, the color is just perfect, and it's simple. But it looks very clean. But so you're saying it's not very.
I'm not gonna put the camera on the office.
Me neither. Me neither. I'm pretty cluttered myself. I actually cleaned off. I usually here. I usually have a pile of papers, and I said, you know what? It's about time that I took those off so people can't see them. What is the best book that you've read, fiction or nonfiction, in the last 6 months? Or year, if you're not.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
You're somebody else. Maybe I've had a couple people recommend that book.
Yeah, I kind of skim read it a while back because somebody said, "Oh, read that," but I never really read it. And then it got recommended again, and I was going, "Oh, do you know what? Everybody just keeps on talking about this book. I need to just read it now." And so, yeah, no, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's incredible.
I'm gonna have to look it up because you're like the umpteenth person. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A virologist.
A virologist, like viruses?
Yeah.
No shit. That is the weirdest. Usually I get like, well, I wanted to be a doctor or a singer or.
No, virologist. I wanted to work on influenza, Ebola, HIV/AIDS. I want to be a virologist. Yeah.
Why did you not go down that direction, if I may ask?
Weren't many options in South Africa to do that. So to study to be a virologist is really intense. And quite frankly, the only place to take it seriously and do it seriously when I was at that sort of stage was to come to America and do it with the CDC. Wasn't an option because we're talking green cards and all sorts of things, and it's not an option. So wasn't an option. So I went into genetics instead, and then into plants, and now I'm coaching.
I guess it's not that too. Yeah, I guess that from agriculture is not too different. There was a point where I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and then I realized that how much school I'd have to go through, and I said, no. Okay, if you could not live and work where you currently are, where in the world would you love to live and work?
Portugal.
Everybody, did my last guest say Portugal? I can't remember. Why Portugal?
I've never been there. I'll be honest, up front. I've never been to Portugal. Sorry, but Portugal. It's just I have a lot of people who have been there. I've seen the photos, obviously, whatever else. But I think it's the climate. I know quite a few Portuguese people. I've always liked them as a nation. I appreciate that it's a very small percentage of the entire population, but I think they've got a lot going for them weather-wise, culturally. It just seems nice. Yeah.
I've thought about it too. Of course, you probably know the Medinas. Both of the David and Heidi Medina have been on this show before, and they are in Portugal. There's a big expat population, so that helps. I've seen so many of the pictures from Heidi and just heard so many great things. And still in the U.S., when you go out and you look, hey, where should I go to retire? Even though it's getting a little bit not as inexpensive to live there, but it still comes up like in the top 5
Yep.
of places to go because of just, ease of getting,
Yeah.
visas and citizenship and price and climate.
I think it's, for me, climate drives it a lot. Obviously, coming from South Africa, climate drives it a lot. I think, if I choose it purely based on people and culture, I mean, I'm probably going to Scandinavia, if I'm honest. They're really happy people. So,
Well, Scandinavia, really any
very
country.
dark in the winter.
But if you look at like the top, I want to say it's like the top 5 places that are safest for women.
Yeah.
It's Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden,
Yeah.
Netherlands. So yeah. So name one person that you'd love to have, a famous person living, that you'd love to have a coffee chat with.
Ooh. A famous person I'd love to have a coffee chat with.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be like,
Currently alive.
like super famous, but just somebody who's, famous-ish, successful. Could be anybody.
That's tough. That's tough. Well, it's I'm gonna either. Well, yeah, it's one of 2 people.
Yeah, tell me.
It's either going to be Barack Obama. I think he's just so insightful. I think he's just so insightful. I think that, like, he has.
Wait, who's the second one?
And the second one's Alex Hormozzi.
Alex Hormozzi.
Yeah.
Now, who's that?
So Alex Hormozzi is the founder of, well, you will know him from the school communities. He's the guy.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But he's, it's just his way of thinking about business. I just like to unravel that. I'm just like, because he makes it sound so simple. I'm like, I'm sure it's not as simple as you're making it out to be. But yeah, that or Barack Obama. I think just Obama, just to me, is so fascinating as a person.
So classy. He's so fucking classy.
I think there's an element of fun there, and there's an element of just like, I think he's got nuggets in him that could change your world.
Oh my God.
Like, I just want to know what those are.
Yeah. And it's really ironic because I believe that the turn of my country was when Barack Obama was elected president. I think that was the turning point of all of the people that were kind of in the underworld of, yes, we're still racist and such. And then it was like that became real. And then all of a sudden the temper tantrum happened. But one of my dream guests on this show would be Michelle Obama. I think they're just an awesome couple.
Yeah, no.
Final confession. Are you currently in your underwear or pajama bottoms right now? Like business, are you business on top, party, or for me, dog mom on the bottom?
I took my daughter to school this morning, so no, I'm in jeans.
So you're proper. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm usually proper, but I could have on like the fanciest top, whatever, all dolled up for whatever, and then on the bottom, I'm like, shorts and black socks and.
Oh yeah, no, I'll openly admit that there have been many calls where I've worn a smart shirt and just been in like boxes, like absolutely, like it's happened.
Hey, you know what? No shame in that game. That's the work from home. So anyway, so I'm not seeing any comments come in. Sometimes we have issues, and I did have a little glitch before we came on, so that might be. So hopefully we'll see some later, but or on the replay. Skye, before we wrap up, what would you like our listeners to know? What do you have coming up? What's the best way to get in touch with you? And of course, I will put all this information in the comments for people to get in touch with you. And I've got a couple things I'll pull up right now for you.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, if there's just like a message that I just like everybody to hear, it's to know that you're enough. Like you are enough. Like it's fine. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's fine. You're enough. I think there's too much out there at the moment where people are second guessing themselves. They're burning themselves to the bone. And I'm like, you don't have to. You are enough. You've got this. It's all good. Don't worry. It'll come right. In terms of everything else, I mean, the best way to reach me, I'm the only Skye Van Heyzen on LinkedIn, I believe. Probably the only one of those in the world.
You're so lucky. There are a million Beth Campbells out there.
So, LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach me. I'm very active on the platform as well. So I'm very active in the DMs and things like that. So I'm a person who does respond. Yes, painful or not, I am that person. And I think, I suppose the other part of this is like, I've just launched my Momentum Lab program, which is a reformulation of another program. And, it's a 12-session program. And really, this is about taking you from version 1.0 to version 2.0 of yourself. So if you're in a space where you're just kind of going, do you know what? Enough now, just enough. Then just book a call. We have a chat. We'll see if it's right for you or not. At the end of the day, switching off isn't laziness, right? Giving yourself that opportunity to switch off is not laziness. And that's why I always say, you are enough and it is okay. And trust me, you have more people in your corner than you think.
Love it. Love it. Skye, thank you so much for being a guest on The Thirsty Professional. I love what you're doing. Like I said, I just think that you're a unicorn, and I think it's so needed and so amazing helping professional women, having been there myself. And I, like I said earlier, I wonder what it would have been like for me if I had had somebody like you to help me navigate. You were really doing, even though I'm not religious, I would say you're doing holy work. So, thank you so much.
No,
all right.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. All right, folks, reminder for the next couple of weeks. Actually, I think it's maybe one more week. One more week? Yeah, I think one more week, maybe two more weeks. I think 2 more weeks. Anyway, we are, US is on daylight savings time, so we moved an hour ahead. So until your area goes to daylight saving time, Thirsty Professional will be an hour earlier than normal. So if you're in the UK, Portugal, Ireland, that GMT time zone, it's going to be 2 p.m. Friday, Spain, Netherlands, Sweden, etc., 3 p.m. on Fridays, so an hour early. Next week, my very special guest is Doris Walsh. So Doris is a former corporate, Doris?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, everybody knows Doris. She's awesome. She is a former corporate escapee turned life and leadership coach for ambitious, career-driven parents who want success without self-sacrifice. She helps high achievers break out of the invisible prison of expectations, guilt, and perfectionism. Oh, been there. And create real work-life freedom through habit shifts, mental fitness tools, and straight talk coaching. I love the straight talk. And she's funny, sweary, and a hat-rocking badass. So I can't wait for that. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you're watching on LinkedIn, please connect, if not already, with myself and with Skye Van Heyzen. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It's always appreciated. If you have any questions or feedback we didn't get to, please leave them in the comments, or you can DM one of us, and then congratulate yourself for getting real about your career, your purpose, and your passion. So now, Miss Fanny Bangkok, that's my lovely hat here, Skye Van Heyzen, and I bid you a fond farewell. Take it easy.
Fill your cup. Let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
Well, that was fun. All right, time to go